The salesman, and the car salesman in particular, has, for more than a century, been a negatively stereotyped figure in American culture.
People who have been buying automobiles in the domestic market have been conditioned over the years to expect the worst from salespeople. Their experiences might range from salesmen who treated them with out-and-out hostility to someone who was ready to promise anything to get the sale.
Despite the sales profession thriving in the 20th century as a primary driving force in the American economy, the public continues to view this group unfavorably. In fact, a 2016 HubSpot poll found that only 1% of those polled thought car salespeople were trustworthy, and a 2017 Gallup poll asked Americans to rank 21 professions for honesty and ethics. Car salespeople were in a virtual dead heat for last place, right next to telemarketers, members of Congress, and lobbyists. In 2006, Dr. Catherine B. Hartman published an article in the Journal of Personal Selling and Sales Management called Television and Movie Representations of Salespeople, Beyond Willy Loman. For the article, Hartman scoured IMDb and found 281 films and television shows involving salespeople as either main characters or supporting characters. She found that adjectives used to describe these characters were negative or very negative 48.3% of the time, and positive only 15.1% of the time. Hartman writes, "The data support the belief that selling behaviors have been vilified in television programs and movies, and indicate that a number of salesperson characters have been cast in the role of the villain. For these characters, their selling behavior often played an important role in the storyline." The public has held a negative perception of salespeople for quite some time, and this likely influenced early film and television depictions of them. As time went on, media depictions likely influenced how people expected salespeople to be. It may have even influenced how salespeople expected themselves to be. And the cycle went on and on. The media may have sometimes made good salespeople look bad, or merely revealed the truth of the profession. But one thing is clear: the public and media have consistently held negative opinions of salespeople for a very long time. This means car salespeople almost always start at less than zero when attempting to earn customers' trust. And whenever a customer has a negative experience at a car dealership, for pretty much any reason, that negative experience is just going to reinforce the negative feelings they probably already hold towards dealerships and salespeople. That's why in the year 2000, when the story about the sleazy car salesman went from being a reoccurring trope in fiction to a segment on the nightly news, the retail automotive industry had a problem.
Tonight, a CBS 2 investigation has spurred state action even before our report has aired. State agents conduct the biggest raid ever on a Southern California car dealership, seizing thousands of documents in evidence. The raid is in direct response to Joel Grover's exclusive investigation. For 3 months, Joel and his team have been undercover at 14 car dealers across the city. And Joel is here tonight with the first of his reports. Joel.
Well, Ann and John, this is a story that some car dealers don't want you to see.
Joel Grover, an investigative journalist popular for his hidden camera takedowns of dirty restaurants and Jiffy Lube oil change scams, had finally gotten the go-ahead on a story he'd been pitching for years. Grover, supported by KCBS's new president and general manager John Severino, sent mystery shoppers into LA dealerships suspected of scamming customers. Armed with hidden cameras, they uncovered a plethora of deceptive and illegal practices being perpetrated by sales staff and finance managers.
The finance manager, Don Poteet, tells us our car includes a free theft protection program where they'll etch a number into our windshield.
And this is free?
But it wasn't free. Internal records show they tried to charge us over $900 for that theft protection program. That would have inflated the price of our car almost $1,000.
Until the Grover story, Local news stations avoided reporting extensively on dealers because local dealers are often some of their biggest ad buyers. But in a bid to boost ratings, Severino ran with the story.
With this footage, people would turn to your channel for the story.
Even promoting the story by hiring a plane to fly over LA with a banner reading, "Car buyers beware." One dealer called Severino to complain, saying, "We spend $250,000 a month in advertising on your station, and we don't appreciate this." In response, Severino countered dealers who threatened to pull their ads, telling them he would run another story about any dealer who did. The story hit millions of local television sets on a Sunday night in May 2000, highlighting an AutoNation dealership called Gunderson Chevrolet and its finance manager, Don Poteet. Don and the other managers at Gunderson were engaged in a practice known as payment packing.
The misrepresentation of monthly payments to facilitate the sale of automobile-related products and services. In other words, payment packing begins at the payment quotation. It's to artificially inflate what the monthly payment is going to be, so you can detect the customer's pain point. If you say this will be $500 per month, when you know that the actual likely payment for the product and the interest should be $400 a month, you have created $100 of leg, and that's illegal because it's deceptive.
Don had packed almost $1,000 into the contract and encouraged the secret shopper to sign without reading. When Grover uncovered many other customers who had their payments packed, he returned to the dealership with them to confront Don and the general manager, Jim Hoban. Hoban tried to make good with the customers by writing them refund checks on the spot. But after the news story, the California Department of Motor Vehicles began investigating the dealership. A grand jury indicted the general manager and finance managers who pled no contest to the felony charges. They were each sentenced to 6 months in jail. Soon after the Gunderson story made news in LA, other local stations started running with similar stories. Later that year, Dateline NBC, a nationally broadcast program, came out with an undercover investigative story about new car dealerships using bait and switch advertising. Over the course of the next decade, franchise new car dealerships across the country, from LA to Tampa to Houston to Nashville, had all been exposed on either local or national news programs. Some of these stories even began making rounds on the internet. And it was really the internet that would put a whole new level of scrutiny on car dealerships as the 100-year-old retail automotive business entered the new millennium. Now, upset customers could tell the world how they felt about dealers they felt wronged by. The federal government seemed to take notice too. The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act of 2010 was created in response to the risky lending practices that led to the 2008 mortgage crisis. But it also put more scrutiny on auto lending practices, particularly the kind of deceptive trade practices that Gunderson Chevrolet was engaged in. Since Gunderson, the retail automotive industry has continued to face heightened regulation, being impacted more by a federal trade commission concerned with preventing fraud and deceptive trade practices against consumers. The internet, too, continues to shape the industry. Dealerships can no longer count on ignorant customers. In fact, the opposite is true. Today, most dealers expect their customers to be more informed and to know what they want before they even get to the lot. Online reviews have also put pressure on dealers to compete on the level of customer service. Many dealers have refocused their efforts on better customer service, away from high-pressure sales tactics and toward a better customer experience during the car buying process. Many dealers have learned that putting short-term profit above virtue simply doesn't work in the long run. And with increased competition from online used car retailers and the electric car market, the dealers of tomorrow will undoubtedly be the ones who provide the best experiences for their customers. Those who cut corners, attempt to deceive their customers, or actively break the law simply won't be able to compete when reputation becomes the most important factor when choosing which dealership to visit. The retail automotive industry may still have a long way to go to overcome the deep-rooted stigma associated with the profession. Only time will tell if the car salesperson will last another 100 years, or if the public's disdain for the car buying process will spur some new alternative, one that could leave dealerships in the dust. If you want to see more content about the automotive industry, let us know in the comments.